Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right guys, I'm back and it is Sunday, August 9th, and it is 9:53 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I have already uploaded the first video, so hopefully by the time you see this one, it'll be up. Or by the time this shows up, you will already have seen the other one. That's what I meant to say. All right, now I did thank these people in the last video, and I appreciate the support very much. Also, make sure to check out in the description of the video, I always put the link to the Teespring Deception Bytes store, and there's some cool masks there, and I am going to be making some more because if you have to wear one, why not make it cool? So I am going to be uploading some more. Now, don't get upset with me. I know people say, well, you're against masks, but you're selling them. Well, the thing is, I have to wear a mask if I go in the grocery store. If I go in anywhere, I have to wear a mask. I have to. You will not be given entrance. So to get groceries or anything, I have to wear a mask. So for those of you that are in areas that you have to wear a mask, then why not wear one that is, or I am going to be doing some that have maybe a political statement, like I'm going to do a mask that says COVID-19 84 and some others. So anyway, just wanted to mention that, and of course my book is always, the link to that is always listed as well. All right, well, let's, I'm going to just come down here and pick up exactly where we left off, and we can continue on. So let's do that. I didn't even take a break. I just uploaded it and went right on. Okay, so here we go. I probably should have taken a break, but you know, bathroom break. Okay, Democrats scream that it's racist for Kanye West, a black man, to run for president. Say what? Now, personally, I used to wonder, what is Kanye West doing? Now I understand. What he's doing is stealing votes away from Joe Biden. That's exactly what he's doing. For the people that aren't going to vote for Trump, because some people are like, never Trump, not voting for Trump, don't care, but they don't really want to vote for Biden either. So yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. He's stealing votes away from Joe Biden. Kanye West is black, and I think that's really important to understand in this story. Democrats are accusing Republicans of racism because, checks notes, Kanye West, as you know, the bipolar former Trump-supporting rapper, is running for president, and he just qualified for the ballot in the battleground state of Wisconsin. Democrats are worried that West is going to siphon off votes for Joe Biden to help President Trump win the state. That's exactly what he's going to do. Republicans have absolutely nothing to do with this, but somehow the Democrats say this makes them racist. Okay. The Democrats really aren't playing with a full deck these days. I don't know if they're all on the same thing. I don't know, but they don't have very good critical thinking skills, that's for sure. Black Democratic officials and organizers in Wisconsin watched in horror as rapper Kanye West appeared to qualify for the state's presidential ballot this week with the help of Republican operatives, not because they are worried he will be successful, but because they believe the GOP efforts are based on racist, lazy assumptions about young black people. West, in recent days, with the help of veteran Republican lawyers and operatives, have filed petition signatures and paperwork to run for president as an independent candidate in several states. To date, West is on the ballot in Illinois, Oklahoma, and Vermont. In Arkansas, Missouri, West Virginia, and Wisconsin, he has made the ballot, but the signatures he submitted have not yet been verified. His campaign also submitted signatures to get on the ballot Wednesday in Colorado and Ohio. The reports keep claiming that West was helped by GOP operatives, but they offer no proof, mostly because it's complete bullcrap. Speaking of which, they also try to tie President Trump to this conspiracy theory. He's been helped by Republican operatives and welcomed by GOP state officials, an effort that's been effectively greenlit by President Donald Trump, who on Wednesday said he had nothing to do with West qualifying for states' ballots, but that the rapper has got a good heart, a very good heart, and I like Kanye very much. That's what he said. Now, get ready for the cries of racism. They assume black guy rapper, jackpot. It's like this is the only association with black people, color of skin, and hip-hop music, says Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. The immediate other response is how incredibly offensive and racist it is to really think that black voters aren't going to understand the tricks that they're trying to play, said progressive agitator Angela Lang. It's racist. They're not even trying to hide the racism. This is the same thing we've been screaming about forever. It's just the Republicans aren't trying to hide it this time, said Chris Walton, the Milwaukee Democratic chairman. At least he admits Democrats are screaming all the time about racism. Just to be clear, what these Democrats are screaming about is that the Republicans are racist because they didn't do anything to stop a black man from running against an elderly white guy. Yeah. Speaking of which, check out what Nina Smith, Pete Buttigieg's campaign spokeswoman, had to say. It's not surprising at all that they would fall into racist tropes and stereotypes about black voters who are not a monolith, said Smith. Joe Biden literally said all black people are the same a couple days ago, and already the Democrats are blaming Republicans for his racism. These people are nuts. Yeah, really nuts. Joe Biden okay, and because Democrats are nuts, it's not always easy to figure out what they're bitching about. I have narrowed it down to these possibilities. 1, it's racist for black people to run for office. 2, it's racist to oppose white people running for office. 3, it's racist for Republicans to refuse to help white Democrats get elected to office. I guess it could be all 3, but whatever the case, the word racism has lost all meaning. I totally concur with that. Absolutely. And this is just ridiculous. I don't believe the White House had anything to do with Kanye West running. Maybe they did. So what? I don't know. Is it racist? No. Anyway, let's go on, shall we? Of course we shall. All right, and here's this. Donald Trump to suspend payroll tax until end of 2020. Now, I know we already talked about this in a video a couple days ago. President Trump said Friday he would defer the payroll tax until the end of the year using an executive order. But do you know what else he said? He said, when talking about this, he said about payroll tax, he says, well, we're going to eventually eliminate it anyway, which tells me that the reset is very real and it will happen. So the tax would continue to be deferred until the end of 2020, the president said, and it would likely be retroactive from July 1st. He said that by the end of 2020, the payroll tax break could be extended. Hopefully, I'll be here to do the job, Trump said, hinting at the results of Election Day. The president also said he would extend unemployment benefits, defer student loan payments and interest, and extend the eviction moratorium, as well as an order requiring health insurance companies to cover pre-existing conditions. If Democrats continue to hold this criteria relief hostage, I will act under my authority as president to get Americans the relief they need, he said. The president said that the lawyers were drawing up executive orders and that they could be signed by the end of the week, and I think they are already signed. Asked whether he was concerned about the legality of his executive order, Trump replied, "No, not at all. You always get sued. Everything you do, you get sued. We'll see." The president also declined to specify whether or not he would extend federal unemployment benefit checks at the full $600 a week. But Trump said he was determined to help Americans still struggling with the virus and the cost of the economic shutdowns, despite unprecedented obstruction from congressional Democrats. Tragically, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer continue to insist on radical left-wing policies that have nothing to do with the China virus, Trump said. Pelosi and Schumer are demanding a $2.5 trillion package that White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows described as a blank check. Yeah, wouldn't I like that? Meadows and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin continued negotiations with Democrats throughout the week, but ended Friday recommending that Trump act unilaterally. The chief and I will recommend to the president, based upon our lack of activity today, that he move forward with some executive orders, Mnuchin said to reporters on Capitol Hill before leaving for the evening. The enhanced federal unemployment checks of $600 a week ran out on Friday. Now, here's the other thing. He's brilliant. Trump is brilliant, because if the Democrats try to sue to keep this from going forward, then How's that going to look right before an election that the Democrats are keeping very much needed aid out of the pockets of Americans? Not going to look very good. Going to tick off a lot of people. So Trump knows exactly what he's doing, always 10 steps ahead. He's smarter. He's smarter than all the Democrats put together. So let's go on. And let's look at this. Bobby D. So the Democrats are going to sue to stop helping U.S. citizens right before an election. Notice the stable genius made it so there has to be 4 separate lawsuits. Notice he's holed up in New Jersey and not the White House. Buckle up, kids. The crap is about to hit the fan. Yeah, I think so. I really, really do. All right. Now, let's go on, shall we? Of course we shall. Let's look at this. Not really an important news article, but, you know, interesting. Thought you guys might like to see this if you hadn't already. Waitress says Ellen DeGeneres emailed restaurant owner and complained about her chipped nail polish. Yeah, because she has to work for a living. That's how you get chipped nail polish, right? All right, I know. I've managed restaurants before, and no, it's not a good thing to have chipped nail polish, especially if you're working in the kitchen. But as a waitress, you know, your polish gets chipped. Who knows? She may have had her nails could have been perfectly fine before she left in the morning, but, you know, with everything that a waitress has to do, it's not easy work. Not easy work at all. So for someone like Ellen DeGeneres to complain about something like that is pretty small. I'm sorry, Ellen sounds like a real a-hole. It's bad enough that she treated her staff like complete garbage, but to go out of your way to try and get some working class waitress in trouble because of her bad manicure is really scraping the bottom of the barrel. And I would agree, because let me tell you, you know, in my years, like my younger years, I had to waitress, and it is not an easy job. Not an easy job at all. You would not even believe the things you have to put up with. Maybe some of you have worked as waiters or waitresses and know exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, how miserable of a person must Ellen be behind the scenes to behave this way? The waitress said that her bosses tried to suspend her for 2 weeks for the chipped nail polish. Yeah, you imagine? Now, you know that a waitress can't go without money for 2 weeks. They can't just sit at home suspended for 2 weeks and expect to be able to pay their rent and buy food. Ellen, a multimillionaire, tried to cut a woman's paycheck because of her nail polish. I just don't know how much lower you can go. From the Daily Mail, Chris Farah, now a comedian and actress, said she was working as a server at Los Angeles vegan restaurant Real Food Daily in 2014 when she waited on Ellen and her wife at brunch. She really went out of her way to try to hurt someone who was beneath her and serving her, Farah told DailyMail.com. You're going to try to take money away from me for 2 weeks because you don't like the way my nails looked? It's shitty. First of all, I thought her demeanor was a little weird. It was like she was taken aback by me in some way, the comedian said. I just remember her being like, what's Christina Applegate having? She was also in my section. She ordered that. Everything went down the way it should, and I'm really nice and warm, and I was a real lovely server. A week later, my managers were like, Chris, did you happen to serve Ellen when she came in a week ago? I 100% thought it was a good thing. She was friends with the owner, and in my mind, I was like, oh, this is going to be a really good thing for me. She wants me to come on her show and serve mini cashew cheeses to the audience in some adorable way. My bosses looked at each other and kind of smirked. They said she emailed Anne, the owner, and complained about your chipped nail polish. I was like, what? It had chipped the night before, and I didn't have time to get a fresh manicure after I closed the restaurant at 11 p.m. and reopened at 8:30 a.m. the next morning. I probably shouldn't have chipped nail polish, but it wasn't on her food or plate. Ellen strikes me as the kind of person that thinks she is so important and so above everyone else that she should never be subjected to ugliness like chipped nail polish. Lousy peasants. Meanwhile, I don't really think Ellen is in any position to be judging other people's looks or appearance. Yeah, she's looking rough these days. Really, she really is. These latest comments from former waitress come on the heels of another man coming forward and saying that back when he was 11 years old, Ellen worked for his mother and she would regularly verbally abuse him. It was really sick when you think about how such a nasty, evil woman sat there for 4 years trashing President Trump for being some awful person. Liberals really do project their own ugliness and hate onto others, don't they? Yeah, they do. No doubt about that. They do. All right. Let's look at this. You know how they're letting everybody out of prison. Yeah, well, convicted rapist allegedly murders victim after being freed from jail over coronavirus. Yeah, so he raped a woman and she, of course, accused him of rape because he raped her. And then he got out because of COVID and he murdered her. Nice. Yeah. A man jailed for violent sexual assault was set free earlier this year over coronavirus concerns, only to go on to murder his victim outside her apartment. So, you know, all these people that say, oh, yeah, we need to empty these prisons and let these people out because they might get COVID. Yeah, but they don't care about their victims, do they? Or their new potential victims. Don't care about that. So he was released from jail on April 9th on a $25,000 bond despite objections from a prosecutor. He was in the middle of serving a sentence for 5 felonies, including rape, sodomy, strangulation, abduction, and burglary of his former girlfriend, Carla Dominguez. The murder of Dominguez happened in Alexandria, Virginia on July 29th. So he was let out on April 9th. He killed her on July 29th. Alexandria police said they received a report of gunshots on July 29th, and at 6:20 a.m., they found Dominguez outside her apartment dead of multiple wounds to her upper body. After the murder, he went missing for days. Police issued a warrant for murder and asked for the public's assistance locating him, warning he was armed and dangerous. Well, why? Why should the public help apprehend him again? You already had it, and you let him go. So what's going to happen this time? He's going to get in there and what? He's going to get COVID and you're going to let him out again? What? I mean, seriously, this is unbelievable. So I'm not going to read on the rest of that, but I did want you to know about it because it's awful. They are putting the rights of these people who are not law-abiding citizens. They have broken the law. They are in prison for a reason. And they're letting them out because they might get COVID. And COVID has, way less than 1% fatality rate. Let them take their chances. I mean, it's not that I'm totally callous, but come on. They have just, I mean, they're better off in there being segregated by their cells than out in the public. Anyway, okay. Now, let's look at this. Oh, I like this. I really, really like this. And I think you will too. Ethics Committee orders Tlaib to return campaign funds she paid herself. Well, I think she should have to do more than repay them. I think that she should be charged. That's 3 squad members with ethical issues. Oh, what a surprise. The House Ethics Committee ordered Representative Rashida Tlaib to return $10,800 she paid herself from her campaign, a violation first discovered by the Washington Free Beacon in March 2019. The committee ruled on Friday that Tlaib violated federal election laws in 2018 when she received $17,500 from her campaign after the election. While federal election committee rules allow candidates to receive a salary from their campaign up to Election Day, candidates are prohibited from receiving contributions after being elected. Though the payments violated the law, the report said the payments were not made out of ill intent, but rather bad timing. Sure, if you believe that, you'll believe anything. If you believe that, you believe that Joe Biden's a brain surgeon. So, let me see here. The committee, after further review, after further reviewing allegations, has determined that the evidence is sufficient to support a determination that a portion of the salary payments that Representative Tlaib received after the 2018 general election was inconsistent with the requirements outlined by the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971, the report said. The committee also recognizes, however, that Representative Tlaib's violation of the applicable restrictions was one of bad timing and not ill intent. Right. Representative Tlaib engaged in good faith efforts to comply with the relevant FECA requirements. Right. And I believe that. Thousands wouldn't, but I do. No, I don't. The report insists Tlaib only received a small salary from her campaign after leaving her full-time job as an attorney to focus on the election. An election law and government ethics lawyer told the Free Beacon when the payments were originally reported that Tlaib may have drawn a conservative salary during the campaign to avoid negative press coverage with the intention of collecting a large sum after the election. What she may have done is to lowball her earlier payments for political purposes, knowing full well. I don't care. I don't care what her excuses are. I really don't. She's in violation. She should have to pay it back, and I think she should be charged personally. But, you know, they tend to get away with it. Well, if they're Democrat, if they're Republican, they get away with nothing. All right, well, let's continue here. And this by Lionel. You will be flooded with a series of media stories on Jeffrey Epstein, and I promise you they are a limited hangout, designed and calculated to give you the impression that that is all you need to know. The real story behind Epstein would cause you to projectile vomit. Now, I believe that, and I also believe what he is saying, that they are putting this out in the news, and you know, they put these things out to make it seem like they're being, you know, forthcoming with this information when really they're not. They're just putting a few things out there to make you think that, oh, okay, well, that's the whole story. Yep. Not even close. And I absolutely believe that the things that he has done would cause us to projectile vomit, because we know that he had all those underground tunnels on St. James Island, Little St. James Island, Epstein Island, and we know the things that were occurring there. So, but I bet you none of that will come to light. Okay, well, let's go on. Are you ready? You, my friend, were born ready. Let's look at this. Okay, report. Shipment of nearly 20,000 fake U.S. driver's licenses from China were just confiscated at Chicago airport. This smells like big-time election interference to me. Yeah, that's exactly what it smells like to me as well. So, why are the Chinese making so many fake U.S. driver's licenses? Well, that's a good question, isn't it? That's a disturbing little tidbit to discover, especially right before an election, right? Okay. According to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the bulk of these fake U.S. IDs flooding into the country come from China and Hong Kong, with the rest coming in from South Korea and the UK. Officials in Chicago just confiscated a shipment of these fake IDs totaling nearly 20,000. Now, that could have an impact on an election, couldn't it? If people use those fake IDs to vote. I don't know. Of course, sorry, a yawn is trying to take over my face, but I didn't let it. Of course, the local news media in Chicago doesn't see a connection to voter fraud, but I do. People in Chicago, or the news media in Chicago, aren't too bright, are they? Not too bright at all. As a matter of fact, it's the main thing I see with just 3 months before an election. What embolden illegal voters more than to head to the polls with a phony ID in their pocket in case anyone asks for ID? From Fox 5, Federal customs officers have seized 1,513 shipments from overseas containing fraudulent documents, 19,888 counterfeit U.S. driver's licenses just at Chicago O'Hare International Airport this year through the end of June. Most of the shipments came from Hong Kong and mainland China, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Other shipments came from South Korea and the U.K. These counterfeit driver's licenses can lead to disastrous consequences. CBP's Ralph Piccarelli said in a statement, criminal organizations use these counterfeit IDs to avoid attracting attention to their illegal activities. What is most disconcerting about these interceptions, besides the volume in which we are experiencing, is the ease in which so many young people freely share their personal information with counterfeiters abroad. Lamau said in a statement, "We'll continue to collaborate with local law enforcement to educate the public and anyone who is contemplating purchasing a counterfeit ID online on the potential dangers of sharing your personal identifiable information with a criminal element." I think that we need to really think outside the box and be open to anything in terms of cheating or interference, because the Dems simply can't lose this election, and they'll work with anyone, anywhere to help squeak out a victory. And I think China is the number one culprit we need to keep our eyes on. No kidding. All right, so just to make you aware, that is happening. And let's go on. Yeah, this is interesting. This is Teen Vogue. And look at what they are, look at this article that is in Teen Vogue. Housing is a human right. Hashtag cancel rent. These people do not have a brain in their heads. They think that it is their right to be able to live in an apartment building and just live there for free. Why? Because housing is a human right. Really? Is it really? When the Pilgrims came, were there just all these houses built for them? No. Even nobody, okay, you have a right. It isn't a human right. I mean, it isn't. And the thing is, what about all these people that own these buildings? Okay, I'm right now, because when I moved back to Canada, of course, I didn't have any credit here because I'd been living most of my adult life in the States. And so I rented, which, now rent and housing has gone to such a point that I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford something, but probably not. But anyway, I'm in a good building, and it's very, very, they really, really, make sure that the right people are in here and that we all get along, and it's really actually wonderful. But what if I just said, well, it's my human right. I don't have to pay my rent. No, it's my human right. No, it isn't. This is somebody else's building. I don't own this. I'm renting it. So what? Because it's my human right, it's their right to provide me housing. These private people that own apartment buildings or whatever, it's their right to provide you with free housing. Excuse me? The Pilgrims. I mean, and people that have come here and immigrated here for hundreds of years, really, they had to build their own homes. They had to build it. Now, today, we don't build our own homes because of codes and all that, which I think is, anyway, don't get me started on that. But what is it with this generation that think other people owe it to them? You should work so that I can have free rent. That's right. You should work and build this building so that I can live in it for free. That's my right. Can you imagine? And this is what they're putting into the heads of teens. An eviction crisis is coming. We need to treat housing as a right. Black Canary is an op-ed column sounding the alarm against enduring injustice in America. Okay, yes, there is an eviction crisis coming. Absolutely. And something's going to have to be done. But to actually say that it's your right to be able to live somewhere for free? Excuse me? So what happens to all the landlords that can't make their mortgages because you're living there for free? What happens to them? Well, I'll tell you what happens to them. The bank comes and repossesses the house that you're living in, and they won't care. They won't care. This just boggles my mind. I'm sorry. It absolutely boggles my mind, and it makes me very angry because, I've been working hard my whole life. I started working very, very young, and I worked, my parents were well off and I really didn't have to, but I worked. I worked from very young. I used to, cook at camps in the summer. I would cook for large amounts of people when I was young, like 12, 13. I've been working, and even while I was going to university, all the times that I went to school, I worked my way through. So I don't get this, that the world owes me. No, the world doesn't owe me. Anyway, it's been 4 months since the onslaught of the coronavirus pandemic first highlighted the failures of capitalism. Yeah, Vogue, so far left. They're so far left that I don't even know. I can't even. There's Left, and then there's Vogue. Anyway, so I'm not going to read through this because it's just going to make me angry, and it's probably going to make you angry, but because they're complaining. It's never enough. It's never enough. The government, it's all the government's fault. Everything is their fault, and they want everything for free. Free housing. Oh, it's our right. It's our right to have free housing. Right. Yeah, I think you're going to find out real quick. It's not. It's not. So anyway, I am not going to, on second thought, read all this, but I just wanted to let you know what they're putting into the heads of our teens. Yeah, housing is a right. Cancel rent. Right. Okay. Well, that might work if it's a government-owned building, but it won't work for private people that own buildings or houses, that rent houses to people. Yeah, if you don't pay your rent, they can't pay their mortgage, basically, most of the time, unless the house is already paid for, which is rare. So, all right, let's go on now, shall we? Of course we shall. Let's get to something, well, I was going to say, let's get to something more cheerful, but I'm not sure that the next thing is cheerful. Yes, and this. A massive fire burning in Abu Dhabi. Residents report loud bang. So here's more mysterious fires happening everywhere. And I think it has to do with this takedown of the deep state. Personally, I could be wrong, but that's what I think. But there seems to be these odd fires popping up everywhere. I'm sure you've noticed. All right, and okay, this we've already covered about the fake licenses. This is just a different source, but I don't think we need that. And let's look at this. You need to know this. This is a need to know. Well, hello. Here we go. Just taking its time. Okay, 4 Ukrainian soldiers die after coronavirus vaccine tests. 4 Ukrainian soldiers die after coronavirus vaccine tests. Now, this was back in July 17th, but this is the first I've seen it, and this is not good. Because Russia completes first trials of the world's first coronavirus vaccine. Tests of a certain innovative vaccine against coronavirus, which are carried out in the Kharkov region by virologists from the USA. Virologists from the USA led to the deaths of 5 people. This was stated on Friday, July 17th, by the representative of the press service of the People's Militia of the self-proclaimed Lugansk Republic, Alexander Masikin. I'm sorry. Anyway, This is interesting because the virologists are from the USA. 5 people died. According to him, 15 patients with coronavirus infection were selected for testing the American drug and vaccine, including 10 members of the armed forces of Ukraine. Masikane claims that after the drug was administered, the condition of 8 people worsened sharply, but the doctors could not help them because they didn't know the composition of the American drug. Yeah, this is what they want to do to us. And they're saying it's safe. It's not. As a result, 5 patients, including 4 military personnel, died from complications caused by infection, the representative of the LPR explained. He also said that according to unconfirmed reports, the same experimental drugs were allegedly used in hospitals in the Kharkiv region and caused complications in patients with weakened immune systems. Early American media reported that the promising coronavirus vaccine in the U.S. will begin to produce more before the end of the summer. Moreover, it is planned to launch the drug into the production before the end of clinical trials, so that in case of approval by the regulators, the vaccine from COVID-19 is ready. So how do you like that? How many was it administered? 15 patients. 15 patients, 5 died. That's like 30%. Could you imagine if they roll out this vaccine and 30% of people die from it? And they don't know how it's going to react to the drugs that are already in our system. What about, people that are taking blood pressure medicine and whatever? And elderly people tend to be on a lot of medications. They don't know how that's going to react. And what about people with compromised immune system, which would be probably most of the elderly? What's going to happen to them when they take this? Well, I think we know. And it's not surprising that this has not been seen in mainstream media. I just found it. And, of course, the media is not going to announce that 30%, now it's a very small group. 15 is not a really good sample to take statistics from, but 30% of the people that were given this died. Lovely. But they're rushing ahead with it. Yep, they're cutting the trials short. The human trials are probably cutting them short because so many of them are dying. Just saying. All right, well, let's go on now. Now, this has been translated, so I hope that it's okay, but I think it's important. All right. Okay, there we go. So it's translated. The shocking story, the immigrants undressed in front of my daughter. Now, this woman is complaining because these migrants, you know what sort of migrants they are. They ate her dogs. They ate all her chickens. And she said there's only pigs left. They've killed all her animals and eaten them. And there's just pigs left because, of course, they won't eat pigs. Now, Rosie Martina is no longer there. Despite complaints, no one has ever intervened to restore a condition of total normality in the land purchased by her father in 1967, which she wanted to transform into a farm. Now, this may be a little bit odd wording because it is translated. So, but it went wrong considering that it borders the Cala Imbriacola hotspot, and the situation and the situation he has to deal with every day is truly indecent. At night, immigrants go up to his property, and as he told this news people, camp, drinking alcohol and getting drunk. The air is unbreathable. The stench of urine and excrement is accompanied by the presence of blankets, dishes, remains of food, and mattresses. The Lampedusan woman lived on the crops of her land thanks to the breeding of sheep and chickens, but the refugees were responsible for a terrible gesture. I have only the pigs left. They ate 4 of my dogs. If they're skinned, they skinned them and they cooked them on a grill. Now, I'd be so devastated Like literally, if someone killed my cat, I would be like heartbroken. And you know how people love their animals. Anyway, they ate 4 of her dogs. And there's the woman describing it, but it's in Italian. So anyway, it says, sorry, I'm frustrating my own self. The echo of his words resounds throughout the valley. Fitoussi, they are Fitoussi. I don't know what that means. And after going to the top of the terraced fields, where there is an artifact under construction, she says, here, I stopped. I didn't do anything. And how do you do it? They went inside, forcing the locks, taking drugs and women. In 2018, Rosie filed a complaint with probably the police. She had 25 hens and they ate them all. The pigs, on the other hand, did not touch them because Muslims do not eat pork. Some time ago, as if that were not enough, a deplorable episode occurred that also involved his 14-year-old daughter. While they were collecting fresh grass for the pigs, 12 came out from behind a plant. They were Tunisians, drunk. I was scared. They winked. They wanted to offer us hashish. One of them dropped his pants in front of my little girl, reports Libero. The woman is understandably fierce and rightly points out that she can no longer go up on her own because she never knows who she can find. I am not protected by anyone, but if I still find someone in my house, I swear to you, I'll shoot him. What is recorded in is a situation out of control. The residents are forced to live in risky hygienic and sanitary conditions. The collapse of the contrada, hotspot, is there for all to see. Despite the fact that the structure is surrounded by concrete walls and railings, illegal immigrants are able to go out and go to the street to fulfill their physiological needs or to buy food in total tranquility, all thanks to a few holes in the iron net, which allows them to try to escape with a potential high health risk to the detriment of the inhabitants. Now, again, this is because this is translated, it's not written as well as, it's not that it's not written well, it's just that translated it doesn't. But imagine having to put up with that. Imagine. And yet that's what is facing some people every day. And there's no recompense for them. There's no recourse at all. Can you imagine having someone come onto your property and eat 4 of your dogs? Well, all of your dogs. And your chickens and your sheep? Yeah, imagine. And you not being able to do a thing about it. And then they taunt you by lowering their pants, defecating all over your property. Unbelievable. All right, let's go on. I don't want to go too much longer here because it's getting late. All right, let's look at this. Few people predicted or imagined our COVID-19 world. That's true. At the end of 2019, when people were making predictions of what the new year would bring, few envisioned a pandemic that would alter the world. Few people would have predicted or imagined the changes COVID-19 has brought. To say it has been a game changer is an understatement. This pandemic continues to evolve. Whether you think it is overhyped or not, it is impossible to deny its effects have altered society. It has twisted so many lives, businesses, the global economy, and more into a bizarre image of what existed before. It is difficult to believe, but the freedom to move from one area to another is gone and may never be restored. Below are a few examples of its effect on what has become a COVID-19 world. And not only that, but I do believe this was intended to knock out the small businesses. Why, you say? Because when they do the reset, you will not be able to, they don't want you to be able to get food and stuff from local grocery stores who may overlook the fact, that you are not vaccinated or what have you. So I think that they are purposefully targeting small businesses because that's who's been targeted. The big guys have been able to stay open. It's the small guys, the mom and pop shops. Those are the ones that went under. So Social distancing has resulted in events being canceled across the world. It is difficult to say when people will again feel comfortable or be allowed to gather en masse. To say the effects of certain sectors of the economy have been staggering is an understatement. As these industries struggle to adjust and reinvent themselves, there is no guarantee consumers will move with them, allowing them to remain viable. And this is New York City under lockdown, empty streets, which is very strange seeing that in New York, isn't it? Who would have thought that entire cities would go into lockdown? This does not impact only the residents of these cities, but the supply chain of companies that depend on products manufactured in them to operate. To make matters worse, draconian rules and the harsh treatment of those not obeying government mandates have taken on an Orwellian flavor of totalitarianism, which should make all of us fear the powers of those holding sway over our lives. The pandemic has highlighted the fact that over the years, with the aid of new technologies, governments across the world have greatly expanded their ability to watch our movements and everything we do, and that means everything we do. While the number of people beginning to venture onto airplanes has slowly begun to increase, air travel is still far below that of last year. All indications are that it will be years before travel returns to normal. According to the Associated Press, the improvement in miles flown is barely visible. June's air travel, measured in the distance traveled by all paying flyers, decreased 86.5%. compared to last year, slightly better than May, which saw a drop of 91% compared to 2019. The huge decline in air travel is only one of the new realities we face and has been disastrous to tourism. The loss to many of these companies has, up until now, been masked by government loans and bailouts, but these are only short-term fixes. This all funnels into the bigger picture of the stock market that seems to have totally disconnected from the pain being foisted upon millions of small businesses in America and across the world. The demise of millions of small businesses underlines the bleak picture we face. This means unpaid rents and more empty storefronts as Main Street withers on the vine. And that's exactly what's happening. Until now, much of the economic and social damage has been masked by a massive government giveaway. Unfortunately, the damage all this has wrought will become apparent over the coming months from the strong headwinds facing our economy. The loss of jobs we face is not a short-term problem, but will be with us for a long time and is exacerbated by growing automation and a flood of robots about to enter the workforce. How long the stock market can ignore the carnage taking place on Main Street is indeed very questionable. It must be pointed out that when COVID-19 first raised its ugly head in early February of this year, the world had no idea of its impact. Most people had never heard of Wuhan, China, before the spring of 2020. Now we find that without a shot being fired or a bomb being dropped in just a few months, our culture has been dramatically changed and transformed. The biggest problem is that this is not over. The number of people expecting things to revert to the way they were is rapidly declining. This makes predicting or imagining the future even more difficult to fathom. So true. It's hard for me to imagine that last year at Christmas, the world was, as it was. The world was as it always had been. And things changed so rapidly. As soon as January 1st arrived, 2020, things just began to rapidly deteriorate. And they've gotten worse and worse and worse, and they're not over yet. So, let's go on. And let me just see here how much stuff I have left. Oh, good. Well, yes, I do have more down here, but I'm going to stop with this one right here. And we'll let that be a night. Okay, it says where the explosion happened in Beirut, there was apparently a labyrinth of subterranean chambers beneath the warehouse. What? At sea level? Yes, apparently this was a very elaborate labyrinth of subterranean chambers. Interesting. So, yeah, whoever blew that up knew exactly what they were doing. Now, let's listen to this. It's only 24 seconds long. And I'll make it bigger for you tiny phone people. Love my tiny phone people.
They know that there's a labyrinth of subterranean chambers here. They've discovered the opening of just one of them. And if you come a bit closer, you can see the top of what looks like the ceiling of one. And that's what is keeping the hopes of relatives alive, that somehow their loved ones have made it to that shelter.
I doubt
that. They know
that.
that there's a labyrinth of subterranean chambers.
I doubt that, but I wonder what those subterranean chambers were used for. And I can understand if I had somebody that was missing, a loved one that was missing, and a blast like that had happened, I would be hopeful too that they made it, somehow they made it to safety, but I don't think anybody had time to make it to safety. All right. Well, that, my friends, is that for tonight. Anyway, we have been, how long have we been going here? 48 minutes. So that's a good second video, I think. And why am I so slow here? I don't know. I hope that it's doesn't translate to you guys on your end. But somehow my computer is going awfully slow. Okay, guys. Well, it's it. That's it for tonight. So I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and please keep seeking truth. Good night, guys.